With the regular season officially behind us today, I'm going to be going over the latest slate of NFL mock drafts, and I'm going to be reacting to what all the biggest news media sites here when it comes to the NFL draft, ESPN, CBS, Pro Football Focus, have projecting the Steelers picking in the first round of the 2024 NFL drafts. We're going to be going over 5 mock drafts today. Some pretty interesting picks here from all the NFL draft media around the league. So before we get into that, do me a favor, give me a follow on Twitter/X if you haven't already. Go to @Jack_Sperry. I'm going to be doing a bunch of NFL draft film analysis on all the top quarterbacks, all the top prospects, letting you guys know who the top prospects are and giving you guys some more reason to believe the things that I'm saying here with some film evidence there. So if you guys want more NFL draft film content on my Twitter, you can go check that out right now @Jack_Sperry. And if you do so, I will give you a shout out on this weekend's watch party when the Steelers play the Buffalo Bills on NFL Super Wild Card Weekend. The show is going to start at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Of course, it's 1 p.m. Eastern kickoff for this weekend's football game. So make sure you give me a follow on Twitter if you want a shout out on Sunday's watch party. So let's start with my sweet prince here, Jason McIntyre. Of course, he's the co-host of The Herd with Colin Cowherd, and he released a mock draft with Fox Sports this week where he has the Pittsburgh Steelers drafting Bo Nix, quarterback out of the University of Oregon here. And this is what McIntyre has to say about taking the Duck QB. He turns 24 in February, and yes, you could argue they tried this with Kenny Pickett, who started 49 college games but only had one good season. Nix has been better for longer, and after 61 starts, looks like a very polished prospect. Now, you can definitely see the similarities between Kenny Pickett, the prospect, and Bo Nix, the prospect. All right, Bo is a little bit tall, or actually Kenny's just a little bit taller than Bo is. He's a little bit heavier, but pretty much the same exact size. They're both going to be 24 when they get drafted. All these different things. They have one really good season at the end of their college careers that made them a Heisman finalist. Neither of them ended up winning it, but you take a look at the numbers here comparing the final seasons in college between Bo Nix and Kenny Pickett. And Bo Nix, I think, definitely had the superior season, all right? Especially when you take into account that Kenny Pickett had the Biletnikoff winner Jordan Addison to throw to. When you take that into account, Nix's completion percentage is higher. Didn't throw for quite as many yards, but he did throw for more touchdowns and less interceptions, which of course led to the higher quarterback rating here in 2023 as opposed to Kenny Pickett in 2021. Now, I've been diving into the film of all the top quarterback prospects in preparation for my role as an NFL draft analyst here at Chat Sports. And Bo Nix currently ranks as the number 5 quarterback on my list. I still have a bunch of quarterbacks to get to, including J.J. McCarthy. So right now, Bo Nix is 5th out of 5 right now. But listen, man, this is a guy that's a pro quarterback, all right? Whether he's a starter, whether he's a backup, I think Bo Nix is going to be an NFL quarterback for a very long time. And he's somebody that's going to stick around because he has the accuracy. He has excellent decision-making on film. He's got good footwork, and the anticipation is something that you really like to see on a college quarterback's film, something I saw on Brock Purdy's film that I really liked, and it's something that kind of reminds me a little bit of him. Now, the cons is that he's definitely not a remarkable talent in terms of physical traits. He's not going to be like a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson or a Caleb Williams for that matter, where he's got insane arm talent, can make any throw from any platform, anywhere on the field. That's definitely not Bo Nix's game. It's definitely more about polish. It's more about decision-making. And then also that Oregon Duck offense is definitely very college-y, what I like to say. It's lots of screens, lots of short passes, lots of one-read concepts that don't really translate to the National Football League. For me, I have him as a second-round grade, but honestly, I do think he's going to sneak into the first round of the NFL draft because when I look at his film, guys, I see Brock Purdy, all right? And Brock Purdy is somebody that, you know, he gets into the right system there with the San Francisco 49ers, and he was an MVP candidate this year. So if people think, hey, if I draft Bo Nix and we think we have the right situation, maybe he could be good right out of the gate and be a really polished quarterback prospect for us right away. And so I definitely think that Bo Nix is somebody that's going to be attractive to teams like the Denver Broncos especially, but also potentially the Pittsburgh Steelers. But my take on drafting a guy like Bo Nix, who, in my opinion, is a slightly better quarterback prospect than Kenny Pickett. I just think that is he that much better than Kenny Pickett to spend a first-round draft pick on him as opposed to just keeping Kenny Pickett for another season and seeing if he can develop with a new offensive coordinator next year? For me, there is absolutely no way that I am drafting a quarterback, especially this quarterback, to replace Kenny Pickett at this point. It's just not really my prerogative right now. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Would you draft Bo Nix to replace Kenny Pickett next season if you were given the opportunity? Type yes or type no. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show. So at some point during this show, YouTube's going to throw you an ad break. It's just what they do. When that happens, take advantage of that time by going down into the comment section, finding that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and give me a yes or no to today's pinned question. So now let's move over to ESPN, where they have the Steelers taking Taliese Fuaga. I hope I'm saying that right. He's Hawaiian, offensive tackle, right tackle out of Oregon State. We've talked about him on the show before, but this is what Jordan Reed from ESPN has to say about the Beaver right tackle. Broderick Jones has shown potential as a right tackle in year one, but his natural position is on the left side. I could see Pittsburgh sliding him over. Left tackle Dan Moore Jr. gave up 12 sacks this season and 35 over the past 3 years. And drafting another first-round tackle, Fuaga, is a physically imposing blocker who overwhelms defenders at the point of attack, and the Steelers could build their offensive line around these two reliable bookend tackles. Now, my take on this pick, I would absolutely love getting a guy like Fuaga. And listen, if you're somebody that wants to move Broderick Jones back over to the left side, I think this pick would be excellent. Now, Broderick Jones has played very well on the right side. So is it possible the Steelers opt to maybe go get a left tackle this year instead of a right tackle? Absolutely, that's a possibility. But like Reed says, Broderick's more natural position is left tackle. He played there at the University of Georgia. That's where he's played his entire career. So if they want to move him back over there and Taliese is still there in the first round, I would absolutely be on board with taking Fuaga in the first round. Then we go over to Pro Football Focus is Trevor Sikkema, who has the Steelers taking a safety, Kamren Kinchens, out of the University of Miami. Now, this is somebody that I think he's kind of the number 2 guy in terms of like the versatile defensive back type. Cooper DeJean out of Iowa is kind of that number 1 kind of guy. But this guy, Kinchens right here, he's big, he's fast, he can play in the slot, he can play in the box, he can play at free safety. Very versatile player, and this is what Trevor Sikkema has to say about him going to the Steelers here in his latest mock. Kinchens has good size and athleticism and is an all-around type of defensive back, as evidenced by his diverse snap counts. He's played 203 snaps in the slot, 263 snaps as a box safety, and 740 snaps as a free safety. Now, we know that Mike Tomlin loves these types of versatile chess pieces. That's why he loves Minkah Fitzpatrick. That's why he loves Patrick Peterson. That's why he loved Cam Sutton when he was still here. And getting a guy like Kinchens could be another guy to kind of put into the mix here as somebody that could play nickel, that can play in the box, that can play alongside Minkah Fitzpatrick and also play free safety if Fitzpatrick ever gets hurt. But honestly, man, I think that because Patrick Peterson is really flirting with going and making a move to safety next season, I'm not sure if this is truly a priority for the Pittsburgh Steelers as they approach the first round of the draft. I would probably rather go with a corner, because if you're moving Patrick over to safety, that means that leaves a pretty big hole there on the other side of the formation, along with Joey Porter Jr. and with all the great corners in this year's draft class. Kool-Aid McKinstry, Nate Wiggins, the list goes on. I would really much rather go for a cornerback, which is a higher value position, than safety, at least at this point in the process. Now, let me know down there in the comment section, what is priority number 1 for you as a Steelers fan? What position should Pittsburgh be targeting in round 1 of the 2024 NFL draft? Do you want a corner? Do you want an offensive tackle? Do you want a quarterback? Let me know down there in the comment section which position you want to take right there in round 1. Then we get to CBS here. where they have the Steelers taking Leonard Taylor III, defensive tackle out of the Miami Hurricanes, another Miami player here. And listen, this guy is a physical specimen, all right? He's actually pretty short for a defensive tackle, but he is built. He is very fast. He's quick off the ball, and he's definitely somebody that's going to be a combine-type player and rise up the ranks after he tests in Indianapolis this spring. This is what Pro Football Network has to say about Leonard Taylor III's game. And the 2024 NFL Draft is a measure of upside and potential. Few scouting reports boast more potential than that of Miami Hurricanes defensive tackle Leonard Taylor III. Taylor's composite scouting report boasts one of the most complete physical profiles on the circuit, and he has the long-term production record to corroborate his talent. Now, I really do think that the only way the Steelers consider taking a defensive tackle in the first round is if Cam Hayward retires. Now, we've talked about it on the show earlier this week. It's definitely a possibility that Cam Hayward ends up retiring after this season. His PFF grade has gone down. He's dealt with injuries. He's said in the past that this has been a rough season and he'll have to think about it. So if Captain Cam ends up walking away, I could maybe see them taking a defensive tackle early to fill his spot. But overall, man, I think that they're pretty good, right? You got TJ Watt. You got Alex Highsmith. You got good depth at edge. And then on the interior, you still have Keanu Benton. You still have Larry Ogunjobi. I still think that they're pretty set there on the interior of the defensive line, even without Cam. But if you definitely want to get some depth going and replace him for the long-term future, I wouldn't mind getting a guy like this, especially with the upside that he brings to the table. Now, once again, I will remind you guys that I'm going to be doing more NFL draft content on my Twitter as part of my role here at Chat Sports as an NFL draft analyst. So if you want to learn more about the top prospects in this year's NFL draft, make sure you go give me a follow on Twitter/X at Jack_Sperry for a shout out on the show. And by the way, these are the last 7 people that have followed me on Twitter. So here is your guys' Twitter shout outs for the day. Shout out to Wes, T-Mac, Tyler, Scrooge, Just Carl, EPD, and Russell. You could be next if you go and follow me right now at Jack_Sperry. All right, the last mock draft we're going to be talking about today comes from Sports Illustrated, where they have the Steelers taking yet another Georgia Bulldog tackle in Amarius Mims, Broderick Jones's former teammate there at UGA. This is what Luke Easterling, the author of this mock draft from Sports Illustrated, had to say about this pick. Would the Steelers really pick offensive tackles in the first round 2 years in a row after going nearly 30 years without doing it at all? They should if they want their offense to keep progressing regardless of who's under center. Mims missed a decent chunk of the 2023 season with an ankle injury, but when fully healthy, he'd be a fantastic pairing with former teammate Broderick Jones in Pittsburgh. And listen, man, we know Mike Tomlin, we know Omar Khan. They love their Georgia Bulldogs. They loved Broderick coming out last year. And obviously, they like the pedigree that these types of tackles have coming out of the SEC in a winning program that Kirby Smart has cultivated there in Athens. So I could definitely see the Pittsburgh Steelers looking very, very closely at Amarius Mims. Mike Tomlin said that he likes to ask his players, which players in the next season should we be looking at for the NFL draft? I would be very, very surprised if Broderick Jones didn't tell Mike Tomlin to keep your eye on Amarius Mims. So I think that we should definitely be keeping a close eye on Mims' status on the big boards this year because I think he could be a Pittsburgh Steeler. That's going to be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for sticking around with me to the very end of today's show. Make sure you get in the comment section and let me know who you want to take in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. And make sure you click that subscribe button for more Steelers draft content all throughout the 2024 offseason.